But I
Okay.
remember seeing your post and we're going to Rise together, right?
Yes, so
So excited.
excited.
And I was like, this girl, like what she's doing by hiring other women and helping to encourage them and promote them to live a really well balanced work life, like just have a good existence as a mom. I'm like, I'm already doing this, but I don't know how many people are talking about it. And I don't know how,
Yeah.
for sure, men aren't hearing our stories. And I
Mm-mm.
think it's really important to talk about it. So I would love it if you would like take a few minutes, let everybody know who the heck you are, what do you do, what do you own, how many people do you employ, and then tell us what you're doing in this whole hiring process and what you do for a living. I'd love to hear
Awesome.
all,
All of the above, just a
all of
few
the above.
things. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Erin Phillips, owner of Pink Me Palm. We're a social media agency in Charleston, South Carolina. And we work with women business owners just to get their story out on social media. So that can mean anything from just consulting with them every month to give them content prompts and just kind of encourage them on their analytics and what's working, what's not working, keeping them up to date of all the changes that happen in social media, all the way up to managing everything for these companies. So taking every photo, writing every piece of content, pulling every hashtag, location tag, at tag, putting it together, getting approval, getting it scheduled and posting it, responding, pulling analytics, the whole shebang. So all things social media is what we do. And we have a roster full of women business owners. So it's a pretty cool world to work in.
So no men, just women.
We are just women. And to be honest, that wasn't intentional. This really kind of started back in 2016. I was working for Capital One, kind of running their evergreen social media on our channels there. And I started transitioning into kind of doing a side hustle. I told them about it. They encouraged me in it, which was wonderful. And then moved full time into this in 2017. And we did have a mixed roster kind of that first year. And then as we continue working, I really find myself drawn to women business owners just naturally. And then word of mouth and just the work we've done for other women business owners has kind of spread. And here we are with a roster of women-owned businesses.
Yeah. Do you have a certain number of clients that you take on, like that you normally keep each month, or do you just take them on as they come? Like for me,
Yeah,
I keep 20 clients at a time. I'm curious if you do something similar or not.
Yeah, so we have, just because we work in all different ways within the social media world, we have clients that are one-time clients. So they may come to us just for a strategy and then we train and hand that over to them. And then they go implement with their teams all the way to retainer clients. So just people we have monthly reoccurring, people who are working with us for years now.
I
So
love
it
it.
just varies.
So
Yeah.
talk to me about your team and your mission to help empower women to still get to be moms and work a balanced life and maybe even work from wherever. I'm assuming you guys, do you have an office at all? Like, how does this work?
Yeah, so we're on video and you can see I'm in my daughter's old nursery. We've actually moved her to another room. So, flexible work environment here. We did have an office when we first started. So I'll kind of back up and just say I've spent the last 14 months living in London. And when we were there, we just, I was like, how am I going to do this? Do I have to be, local and with my clients? And I took a step back. I'm like, okay, yes, I have clients in Charleston, but gosh, we've got clients in DC and in Florida, and I'm talking with people in California. So I guess it really doesn't matter where we are. So I took the show on the road, went over to London. I have an awesome employee. Her name is Ryan, actually, and she kind of held down the fort as far as posting for our clients that needed, their post to go live at 9 p.m. when I'm asleep in London. And that really just got me thinking, okay, if I can do this from London with a 5-hour time difference from the East Coast in the United States, where the majority of our clients are, why can't all of my friends, as we're beginning to have babies and transitioning into that world of motherhood, why can't I employ these women who were CMOs at other companies, who, led entire marketing teams and did huge strategies for big companies? These women are now at home with their children, and that is their sole most important job, and it's what they love. but there's that piece missing for them that I keep hearing over and over again from my friends and mom groups and all of that of like, God, I just want to use my brain for something other than a schedule and making what I'm going to make for dinner tonight. And gosh, these are smart women. And so I'm like, okay, if I can do this from London, then I sure as heck can employ women who need a job, say their husband takes their kid to school. They can start working at 7:30 a.m. and then they end at 2:30 when they need to go pick their kid up at 3. And that's totally fine. We work in social media. So, I mean, things are not, 9 to 5, you need to be at a desk in an office. If we can do this from around the world, we can employ these women who are just looking for a little bit more enrichment in their daily lives while their kids are kind of at school. So that's what started the whole idea.
I love it. So I'm just thinking, like, I can hear men in my head going like, well, but how do I know the work gets done? And how do I know they're sitting at their desks? And what would be your response to that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, honestly, and my husband is the biggest proponent of my business ever. And I'm so blessed to have him on my team. But, when I told him what I wanted to do and kind of the type of people I was looking to hire, and I say hire, but I also mean not just for my team, but we work with a ton of contractors. So, I mean, I'm talking too about, when we do photo shoots, working with women who need to shoot during school hours or who have a full-time job and need to shoot for their side hustle. So, I mean, I'm talking about that as a broader kind of team as well. And honestly, when I told this to my husband, he was like, gosh, but won't your clients be like, okay, let me email her at 4 o'clock and then not get a response and kind of freak out? And I was like, honestly, we don't communicate a lot over email. We have our meetings, we set our expectations, our clients know what's coming to them. And because our clients are also women, and honestly, the majority of them are also moms. Actually, right now, every single client is a mom and a business owner that we have on our roster. I'm running through the list in my brain, but yeah, I can honestly say the marketing director who I work with or the woman who owns the business herself is a mom. And so they get it, they understand. And as long as we're setting those expectations up front, then everybody knows what can happen. And we even in our email signatures, if our schedule's a little bit wonky, we'll kind of say office hours and that kind of thing. Now, that's not to say that there aren't like, oh my gosh, this just happened. We need to post about it now. Or an influencer just tagged us and they're huge and we need to capitalize on that. That's not to say that doesn't happen, but that's where the chain of command comes in too. So, I say always on, but try to kind of set barriers, but I'm here at the top, right? And then I mentioned my employee, Ryan. She kind of works more steady hours because she's not a mom yet. And so we kind of have this chain of command and these backup plans that kind of help support those roles. And as long as we're setting expectations and we are getting the work done, it's working. So, I mean, knock on wood, so far, so good.
So that's interesting. So I currently have a team of me and one other gal just on our immediate team that services our Amazon clients. I service all the Walmart clients myself. I have a full-time social media developer, content manager. She lives in the middle of the Indian Ocean on a beautiful island called Mauritius. I don't even know how to say it.
Oh my goodness. How awesome.
So like you, like a very diversified team, one only full-time, others, well, I guess the other one is full-time too. It's really interesting, I think, in today's world of technology of how you don't necessarily have to have any office hours. We certainly don't. And we have kids too, the majority of us. So we definitely work around kids' schedules, summer hours, nap times, it's just kind of like that. And we've trained our clients. We don't just pick the phone up when you call us. Like you send us an email, we get it on the calendar, we get it scheduled, even if it's 2 hours away from now. Let's make sure that it's, like appropriate for everybody, the timing and that it works and that we can be fully present when we have a phone call with you and all that. But it all seems to work well. I'll tell you something that did. I will know what I was going to tell you about team. So right now I have the smallest client roster that I've ever had. So I have about 20 clients, not a third. Yeah, maybe a third of those I would say are Walmart and the other are all Amazon. So I've got the smallest client roster I've ever had. I also have the smallest team roster that I've ever had. And I have the most space in my life to be present and to go on vacations and to take a nap in the middle of the day and to train with my trainer 3 days a week that I've ever had in my life. Like, it's the perfect balance. And I don't know about you, but a lot of people will come to me and they're like, well, don't you want to grow your clients? And don't you want to grow your team? And why aren't you growing faster? And why aren't you? And I've been there. So my other flip story, like you, is like, we had an office. I was spending thousands every month just paying rent on an office that nobody went to, although my team told me they needed an office to work out of. I had 10 team members at the time. So I was managing 10 people, about 70 clients, and an office, and my life, and my kids, and my husband, and my ex-husband, and like everyone's schedules. And I thought I was going to lose my mind. It was like I created this personal hell on earth for myself, even though I looked like I had so much together. And I made more money that year than I ever have. It's just like the revenue was incredible, but then to pay all the team members and deal with all the BS and all the, fights that the team was having and the drama. And so now I can look like this and go do yoga at noon and like not care and wear Lululemon.
Yes. Yes. Amen to that.
So I don't know about you, but like, I feel like my mission here on earth is to empower other women to step up, to be bold, to own companies, to step into leadership. And there's not enough of us. There's just not.
Yeah.
And so I try to be a beacon of hope, and I try to be inspiration, and I try to empower through all my social media posts. And I feel like it's not enough, but I'm trying. And I don't know about you, but I love what you're doing. And I love how not only are you empowering the women that work for you and choosing women to work for you that are in the same situation as you, with kids and a lot going on in life and schedules and dinners and whatever. But you've also found a way to attract your ideal customer that's also a mom, that's like a reflection of you. And so would you talk a little bit about that and maybe what you're doing to kind of magnetize a reflection of yourself and your client?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a few things. So, when I mentioned when we started out, we were kind of a mix of different things. And that was me just being like, I'm a brand new business. Yes. 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 You want to work together? Yes. You have a friend who has a business? Yes. You're a real estate agency full of men? Yes. Let's do it. I mean, it was just yes, yes, yes. And you have to do that in the beginning, right? Like, that's just a part of starting a business and learning and growing and all of that. But I can confidently say now that, I've been back for a little over a month in the United States, and we are growing our roster again now that we're back here. And it's refreshing because I have now learned who we work well with, who we're for. All the time I get asked, so what's your niche? Is it interior designers or wedding professionals? And I kind of say, it's not by industry, it's by the type of business owner is really our niche. And we've
By human.
yes, yes. And we've hit our groove with this. And
Awesome.
so I think it's being able to say yes and no to certain opportunities. Saying no is really hard. But just hearing about potential clients and meeting them. And I think as business owners, we have that gut feeling of, God, we're a good fit, or no, we're not. And so I think going from there, I've said a lot of like, hey, it was wonderful speaking with you. Here's some other resources and best of luck kind of thing, And I
Yeah.
think that's hard to do, but like you're saying, you kind of you hit your groove and you find your people, and that's great. And so I think that's one part of it, is learning to say no, even though as a small business owner, that can be scary because you're always kind of wondering what's going to happen with my roster next, and can I support these team members and all of that. But I think the other thing is just putting out what you want to come back to you. And you kind of mentioned, you're always saying on your social media positive things and empowering. And I think that's a huge part of it. I mean, as a social media agency, the number one place people are going to look into us is social media, obviously. So if we're there, kind of showing up as women, if we're showing our women clients, if we're talking about our work, if we're using a tone of voice that's for women and that is relatable, then it just works and it kind of clicks. And I mean, I love the color pink, and that is on our social media,
Yeah, me
so
too.
I think that's a piece of it too, is you can come to us and you can see they work with feminine brands. They're used to that kind of world, and that's kind of what we're putting out there and getting back, which is great.
And I found I attract a lot of men. It's the
Yeah.
weirdest thing. And because my content developer and I will sit like once a month, and it's always like, okay, let's go back. Who are we trying to attract? Who's the ideal customer avatar? And we're always like her, she, 35 to 50, business owner, has disposable income, makes great money,
Hmm.
it's a lot of times it's the men. But what's interesting is
Yeah.
they're coming because they're like, you're doing something different and your marketing is working and you're always talking about
Hmm.
how easy it is to take on new clients. And I'm spending $10,000 a month on social media marketing and agencies and trying to figure out how to get a new client. I haven't had a new client in a year and I don't know what to do. You're doing something right. And so I think men are realizing that these feminine business principles that we're using, they work,
Yeah,
and they
that's
want a
right.
little bit into their own business and their own life, which is kind of cool.
Yes. Yes. And I think for you too, I mean, those are probably women shoppers, right? But a lot of the businesses
They're
are
owned by
male
men.
owned. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it makes sense, I think, for you and your in your industry.
Yeah, that's true. My branding was like much more blue, much more men, much more like brick background. All the photos that you see on my website today are from that photo shoot. And we just did a total rebrand photo shoot, which I haven't redone our websites and stuff yet. But it's pink and I have like long curly hair and like it's very feminine. So it'll be interesting to see as we
Yeah.
change direction a bit if that does turn any men off or if it just continues to be an interesting mix of both.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, as we continue to move forward in this day and age, more women kind of are stepping into those CMO and C-level
Mhm.
roles, and more women are starting businesses. So I think that's just a product of it too, is we'll hopefully see that growth. And I mean, I I always have to say, as we talk about men and women, I mean, the men that stand up and support the women in these roles are just as important as the women in those roles. I mean, having male advocates that kind of step in and just
Yeah.
lead the charge with this and empower these women and put them in these positions and and are their mentors and all of that. I mean, we got to give a shout out to the guys too, I feel like.
No, I agree. I love it. I have tingles. I love it. I love it. So I'm going to wrap it up. I love what you've said. I've taken some really great notes too. Do you want to leave our listeners, viewers, if we want to share this video with the world or not? Do you want to leave any kind of inspiration, some thoughts maybe to other business owners that would be like me, like you, like the men that are hiring women to maybe step into a little bit of a different workforce thought process pattern? Like how would you encourage another business owner to say like you don't have to put these walls and constrictions anymore on any human that works for you? In fact, we're finding that our workforce, our people that work for us actually do a lot better when they have flow and space and can work from wherever. What would you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of hard to wrap up and put a bow on, but I think what I would say is really it can be kind of scary to think about doing something like that. But it's all about setting expectations and kindness, which I know sounds a little weird to throw in there too. But I mean, that's been the goal with us, is as long as we're setting expectations. And sure, we weren't able to jump into this really flexible workflow with clients who were used to getting our attention from 9 to 5. So
Mhm.
that we had to have this in between uncomfortable period of working both ways. And that's not always easy. So there is kind of an uncomfortable period, but as long as we're setting expectations moving forward, it's been working. So setting expectations has been huge as far as moving kind of into a, not so typical environment. And then kindness. I mean, I always kind of joke that you should treat everyone like they're Reese Witherspoon's cousin, because you never know. She's like my person, love her. You never know kind of who someone knows, right? And I mean, that sounds a little self-serving, but at the same time, you never know who's going to come around and be an advocate or a client or an employee or refer people to you. You never know that. And so as long as you're approaching every workflow, every new employee, every new client with just this sense of kindness and listening ears, I really feel like you can conquer a lot if you do that, which in a business world, I don't feel like we talk a lot about kindness and listening enough. So, I mean, that's really kind of a big piece of this space and moving into these not so traditional avenues.
Mm. And if I could add one more point, I think I would add grace even to the kindness
Mm,
part, like grace on
yes.
your employee or 1099 contractor, that they're not always going to be available, right? And it's just kind of
Mhm.
work around that. Just like in our own schedules, we have to work around life that pops up.
Absolutely.
I
I
love it.
100% agree.
Okay.